Alright, so what I want to do is just dig a little bit deeper in how to create big worship. Okay? And the first thing I'm going to tell you is, you know, as I mentioned before, one of my favorite chords is the 2 chord. And reason being is that the 2 chord just has the ability to soften things. And during worship, the last thing you want to be is abrasive or like, too bluesy, or, you be kind of adhering to one particular thing. But I have learned that when it comes to worship and the atmosphere that you do want to create, um, the 2 chord has a real ability to soften things. And then I can show you the example. I play a lot of stuff in D, and so here's D major, okay, and now here's D2, okay. So basically, wherever you are on the keyboard, if you select a chord, especially during those quieter, more prayerful times, maybe, um, start to substitute your majors for 2s. Okay, there's a C major. Okay, make it into a 2 chord. So you have, again, 1, 2, and 5. Okay, so no matter where you are, use that 1, 2, 5. Put it into the 2. So okay, it just has the ability to soften the chord, and I just, for that reason, I like it a lot. I use it a lot. So, and when it comes to minors that are in the progression of what you're playing, I also want you to consider subbing out, like I said, those regular minor triads for a minor 7. Okay, just a subtle difference, but it makes all the difference. Okay, so you've got the 2 chord, makes it a little bit softer. Okay, and even the minor 7s have a way of kind of softening the sound. So I would sub out majors with the 2, and regular minors with a minor 7. Okay, so another thing that's going to help you really create a bigger sound, a bigger worship, is learning to roll or arpeggiate in your way into a chord. So if you use, on our major scale that we talked about, if you use on the left hand a 1, a 5, and a 1, it works really well when you roll it into a 2 chord. So I have D2 as my chord, and I'm going to roll. You practice, it's pretty, needs some subtlety, and once you get it, it really helps you go just break into a chord in a really neat way. So it's kind of a 1-5-1. Okay, and you can sit back for 10-15 minutes if you want to, on your practice time, just rolling chords, and just basically roll your way into that 2. You take, if you're in C, same concept, move it up. It's just that 1-5-1, okay? Go to E. So, and you can see where that same rule applies to any other key. Okay, just nice hand roll into that 2 chord, okay? And basically it's just you learning how to arpeggiate as you go, and you select different ways of doing that. So it's a really cool way to break into chords, in a softer way. Another thing you could do to really, this works well for me. I tend to do this a lot as also, is I'll take, and this is by way of numbers. Let's look at C, for example. If you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, the 5 would be the 5th note, and it will also represent the chord of G. So picture G as 5, okay, okay, and C is the root chord being 1. So now if I said put 5, okay, over 1, what you're doing is you're going from, you have G on the right hand, you have C on the left hand, and then what you do is you go G, C, or 5, 1 to the 1. You go back to the root. So what I do is basically is I cluster or I layer those chords in such a way where it's the 5 and the 1 back to the 1, or the G, C to the C, okay? And can't stress it enough. The same rule applies to any other key you're in. We'll step it up to D. Okay, so here's the 5 and the 1 in the D. Take it to that 6th chord, which is over the 4 bass note, okay? A sus, that's the 5th, or the 5th on the bass. Back to the root. Roll it. So, as we make application, as we move along, you look at all the variations and then all of the movements that I show you. Really what it all comes down to is just, you've got this whole library full of movements, and you just got to know when and where to apply them. Church is pretty unique because the songs that we do tend to be, they're just all over the map, and one moment it could be soft, one moment it could be pretty aggressive, and people are giving a testimony, and you want to kind of, put some different flavor into what you're playing, or, we vary so much in church from tempo to tempo. So basically, it's knowing, when and where to apply these movements, and, don't be really hung up on, man, I hope I can remember it all. I think that the beauty of it all is that the Lord, he's so faithful to call back to your remembrance the things that you need at the time you need them, and that's his job. That's the Holy Spirit's job. He's called the helper, and I think he's he's pretty good at it, at helping us out. So just some other ways that you can really see the value in layering chords. I do it a lot. So C bass, and it's G to the C on top, because you're going to the root, okay? But you're going 5 to the 1, 5 to the 1, okay? So anywhere you are, it's a very, very smooth, subtle way to kind of just break in to that worship flow. 5 to the 1. To the 1. Alright, just roll it. Practice, adding in different notes and things that complement the chord that you're in, okay? And you just break out of that shell, get yourself out of that major triad mode, and a little bit difficult, but I know you can do it. Let's go back to C. And what's going to happen here is something I do a lot of is basically when I'm going to the 4 chord, and I'm going to toggle back and forth between 2 chords, which is basically the 1 and the 4, the C and the F. What I like to do is there's a little chord that helps me get to the 4, and it's just the root, a C2 root, over the 3, okay? So it's it simulates a walk-up, if you will, but basically it's going back to the root, now I made that an F2, okay? So you can see how it got softer. So basically there's some movements right there, and if I start putting them all together, reverse direction there, but you just start learning the movements, applying it to whatever key you're in, and then sort of knowing when to use them. And you'll get more instinctive as you go. You'll feel it out, and you'll know actually when to sort of halt so you don't overuse something too. That's another important thing about that. But those the 1 and the 4 we like to call rocker chords, and we just toggle back and forth in those times of prayer. Just those more subtle moments, maybe altar time or things like that. So definitely, more ammunition to help you create bigger worship. And another element to really enhancing and creating feel and a largeness to your sound is when you transpose the music. Like I said, during a practice time, you can work out, how many steps you want to take it up. If you want to take it up in half steps, that's a really cool way to do it. It's a more subtle approach as opposed to, going in whole steps, and then the song gets way higher, way faster. So you might want to consider half steps. But so when you transpose, if you take the 4th note, okay, in the key that you're going to, okay, and you put it over the 5, you basically have 4 over 5, okay, and that's your passing chord, which takes you to the root of the key that you're headed towards. Okay, so whenever you hear that 4 over 5, it's changing that mental tone. Okay, so now you've got C. Okay, and you know that the tone is set with the 4 and the 5 and the C. Now let's raise it. Okay, now your mind just said, wait a minute, I realize there's a change in pitch, so there you have it. The 4 and the 4 over the 5 is your passing chord to the next key. Okay, go up to D. Okay, take it up. And what that does is really, it just creates a momentum, especially in faster songs. I know that when we're raising it, it just has, this ability to sort of generate, an excitement, if you will. It just does something to the music that, sort of, elevates like where you're at, and really you are. You're changing the tone. You're going higher, so it's sort of, it takes the mood higher. It takes the praise a little bit higher. So it's a really cool concept, and it's really something that is it's really neat to use. So I want to get used to that and have a lot of fun with it.